Hey guys, so in this video I want to talk about something that is a little bit different. So I want to talk about being a perfectionist as an artist, maybe feeling unmotivated, comparing yourself too much to other artists and getting brought down, looking at the success of other artists and thinking they're all happy and perfect and it's badly affecting you. And I just want to discuss a lot of things that could be bringing you down, making you feel maybe unworthy, and just give my opinion on these things and really talk and discuss this. And so it's something that I have been thinking about a lot lately, because I think a lot of artists go through it where they feel very down for different reasons, and I want to discuss that. And so whilst I'm discussing all of this, I'm going to be working on another watercolour animal piece. I'm absolutely loving doing these lately, and I hope you enjoy watching me create this one. It's of a really cute red panda, and yeah, that's what I'm going to be painting. And so on this discussion, I would love to know what your opinions are or your experiences, whether you've gone through any of this stuff. So please let me know in the comment section, and I'll read them all and I'll respond to as many as I can. So let's get into it. So I want to discuss 5 habits that a lot of you might be doing that might be making you feel a bit more down and unhappy as an artist, whether that's within yourself or feeling unhappy with your actual artwork. So let's get straight into it with reason number 1, and that is perfectionism. You might be way too much of a perfectionist when it comes to your artwork, and this can be both good and bad. It can be good because it will make you strive to improve your work and you'll push yourself to make it better and better, but in a way it can be very bad because it might mean that you never finish your work. You carry on so much because you're not content with it that maybe you overwork it, or you're never actually happy with what you're producing. You're overly critical of what you're creating, and so even though it might be really, really good, it's not what you imagine it to be. It's not how you thought it would come out, and so you're not happy with it. You don't see all of the great things that you've managed to achieve. You're just fixating on those few things that you don't like, that aren't quite right and how you want them to be. And so this means that you might not be happy, and even if you do create something that is so much better than all of the things that you've created, you might put such a high standard for yourself that you don't actually see your progress. And so that's why I think perfectionism is a massive part of why artists are sometimes unhappy and they're never quite satisfied. Also, if you find that you're a perfectionist, what this might mean is that you also find it difficult to decide when you should finish a piece of artwork, because you can just keep going, keep tweaking different things. And so what it means is you never actually finish the piece that you're working on. If this is the case, you might just keep working on it and working on it. And sometimes it gets to a point where you think, oh no, it's actually worse now than what it was before. You've overworked it so much and just kept changing things that it actually looked better before. And you just keep changing and changing, and sometimes they're not for the best, the changes. So at some point you're just going to have to stop and think, yes, this is good enough. It might not be perfect, and most pieces of artwork aren't perfect. Most artists, when they create art, it's not exactly how they wanted it to be. They're not necessarily fully satisfied with it 100%, but it's good enough. It's better to get something finished and it look 90 or 80% as good as you wanted it to be than just not finish it at all, or just keep going to a point where you don't enjoy it anymore, and also you overwork it too much to a point where you're like, oh no, it looked better before. So perfectionism is something that is hard to change. It's hard to get out of. It is something that is really difficult to stop doing, but if it's affecting your mindset and your emotional health and it's not making you enjoy creating art as much, then I definitely think try as hard as you can just to decide that you're going to finish that piece of artwork, even if it's not perfect, and move on to something else, and not be as hard on yourself if it isn't perfect. So number 2, the second bad habit, is actually comparing yourself too much to other artists and getting jealous of other artists' success. And so what I mean by this is a lot of people on Instagram, you might scroll through your Instagram feed and see all of these amazing artists that are producing amazing piece of artworks, and you might think, oh, I can never create something like that. They're so successful. Maybe they're earning a lot of money from it and you want to be like them, or you just envy their artwork a lot. And so this isn't a good mindset, especially if you're trying to become an artist and you're trying to improve yourself. You don't want to be looking at loads of other artists that you think are better than you and making yourself feel down about it. Another thing is people look at other artists and you might think, oh, their artwork's so good, they must be so happy, they're so successful. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that other artist doesn't have any problems themselves. Normally, that other artist that you look up to actually is looking up to another artist that's better than them and feeling the exact same way. Just because you think an artist is successful and they should be happy doesn't mean that they are happy, doesn't mean that they're happy with their artwork. Because the chances are that there is someone looking at your artwork and thinking that it's really good and they wish they were like you and thinking that you're really happy. So success and having a good piece of artwork doesn't necessarily mean that that artist is completely satisfied, because normally artists never are. They're constantly evolving and want to improve. It's not like there's an end of that journey. You're always striving for the next thing. So that's why I think it's so important to be happy no matter what stage you're at and appreciate your artwork, because it is very important to improve and grow and push yourself. But it is also so important to be proud of how far you've come and notice your journey. It's so important to look back on your old pieces of artwork and seeing how far you've come. And also, I don't think you should be jealous of other artists' success, whether that is in terms of financial success or in terms of the skill level of their artwork. You should look up to them and think, how did they get there? What did they do? Whether it's financially, what did they do to create such a good sort of stable income for themselves? And how can I get better with my skills? Rather than just feeling jealous, normally that artist has put in a lot of hard work to get to where they are. And so if you put in just as much hard work, then you have a better chance of reaching their level than just looking at them on Instagram and wishing that you were where they are. That's not going to help you get there. You need to actually actively go and try and do it for yourself. So the third habit that might be making you kind of hate being an artist is you're constantly feeling unmotivated or uninspired, and you don't make yourself actually go and do artwork if you're feeling unmotivated. So feeling a lack of motivation is something that a lot of artists suffer from, and it can be hard when you just don't know what to draw. It's so sort of hard to just draw something if you have no idea, if you're not feeling inspired by anything, and it can make you feel very down. You might feel like, well, what type of artist am I if I don't get heavily inspired by something, and if I don't have my art style and I just don't know what to do? But a lot of artists go through that. You might not be kind of at the top of your game constantly 100% of the time. You might have days where you don't know what to draw. But on those days, it's important not to just stop creating because you don't know what to draw. On those days, take that as an opportunity to learn a new skill, evolve your skills, try new techniques, or just draw anything as long as you're practicing and getting better. It doesn't mean that because you don't know what to draw and you don't feel inspired that you should feel bad about yourself and just not draw. It just means take that as an opportunity to learn something else and just draw anything just to keep practicing, because you've got to stop being so hard on yourself. Everybody has those days where they just don't know what to draw. Number 4 is feeling pressure to always create art that's as good as the last. So with artists, you always feel if you've reached a certain standard with your artwork, then you've got to maintain it. You've got to just keep pushing and pushing with your artwork until it's as good as the last piece. Because if you've created a piece of artwork, then the next one should be as good as that or better, because if you're especially if you're on social media, you might feel that people will comment saying, oh, well, this isn't as good as your other piece, or I don't like this as much, or you're not improving, your art's got worse. And so especially if you're putting it online, it can be very difficult to actually not feel pressured to keep producing good art. But that doesn't mean that you have to make every piece as good as the last. If you're experimenting with new things or you're trying something different, then you're probably not going to have pieces of artwork that are as good as the mediums that you've been practicing for years at. Also, not every day is going to be a good day for you with art. You might have those off days where just everything isn't working out. That doesn't mean you're a bad artist. That just means you're human and you have bad days. So don't worry about it. That doesn't mean you're never ever going to create a good piece of art again. But also, I would share that with your followers. Show that you're human and artists do have bad days and their art doesn't always come out how you expect it to. I bet a lot of people would relate to that and would actually create some sort of personal attachment to you for the fact that you've been so honest and you've shared it. And they might say, oh, I get those too. I'm like that as well. Thank you for sharing that. And so it's important to share your failures, well, what you think are failures, as well as your successes. And so the final thing that could be a bad habit that's making you feel down about yourself is actually feeling very unworthy about yourself and maybe just not feeling happy with your style. You might be pushing yourself too much, saying, oh, I haven't got a style, I'm not a proper artist, I don't know what I want to do. Or you might feel like, again, I don't feel worthy of putting my art out there. It's not very good. People shouldn't see it. And maybe you undervalue yourself too much. Maybe you are just being overcritical as a whole about yourself as an artist. And so that is something that is very important. And you don't want to make yourself feel so undervalued and unworthy that it, one, stops you creating art, but two, stops you sharing that art with the world. And so artists have a very different opinion on themselves than a lot of other people do. So really make sure that you're being your own fan, that you're the person telling you that you're doing really good and you're making progress, because you're going to have people out there that are always going to try and bring you down and critique you constantly. So you've got to kind of be your own sort of fan. You need to be positive about yourself and be happy with what you create and what you do. But anyway, I'd love to know what you think on these topics. Have you got any sort of opinions or experiences to share? And if you want prints of this particular painting, then they are available on my Etsy store. Anyway guys, that is it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future videos. So drawing topics and tutorials as well. But that is it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!